Welcome to Sticky, Stories That Stick. Join me, Amelia Forzak, as I sit down with master storytellers to explore what makes some narratives unforgettable. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Amelia Forzak, the host of Sticky. I talk with leaders about moments that changed everything for them and why those stories still matter. Whether you're speaking, writing, or just trying to connect, there's something for you. Today, I have a very exciting guest with us. But first, I just have to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Pithy Wordsmithery, a boutique firm founded by yours truly. I'm a New York Times bestselling ghostwriter, and I love helping people write and publish their books. My team and I have helped many authors turn their stories into bestsellers and their brands into thought leadership platforms. Our readership is in the hundreds of thousands, so even if you haven't heard of us, there's a decent chance you've read something we've written. If you've ever thought about writing a book, check us out online at pithywordsmithery.com. Today, I have Rick Werry with me. Rick is a motivational speaker, author, and podcaster whose story of resilience inspires audiences across the country. After a construction accident left him paralyzed from the chest down, Rick found new strength through adaptive sports, becoming a competitive wheelchair rugby player and cyclist. Today, he shares powerful lessons on perseverance, community, and breaking barriers, encouraging others to face challenges with grit and hope. Rick, thank you for joining us.
Oh, wow. What an intro. Good. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share my story, and it's good to see you. So
Yeah, we worked together on a book. So just for everyone listening knows backstory. We met a few years ago when Rick was thinking about writing a book, and I think he'd written a lot of it already and it needed editing and flow and that kind of thing. But your story was just so good, and it like moved me so much that I was like, oh God, I feel like this has to be a book, and I want to see you succeed. I want to see you on stages in front of people because I feel like it would change people's lives to hear from you. And fast forward, a couple years later, you do speaking all the time and you're still like living this incredible story, and I'm super excited to catch up.
oh yeah, it's good to catch up as well. God, what a good intro. You did. Yeah. You're really building me up, Amelia.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because I saw the book, and this is a while back. The reviews, you had a ton of reviews. There were like 5 stars, and everyone was just gushing over the book. And that made me feel so good to see that on Amazon because it can be hard to have people want to write reviews, even if they like the book, to have them take that step to write the reviews. But you had so many good reviews. Like, it's clear that the book is definitely resonating with people.
Yeah, you talk about taking that step, and you know, I've always thought this, and it's come up a lot lately that they're dreamers and doers, and forever I would just tell people, oh, I'm gonna write my story down. I'm gonna tell my story. And I don't know what it was that helped me make that step. Absolutely you guys, but I think the main thing is that I had told like 473 people, total. I've told so many people I'm going to write a book that eventually I got to be a man of my word and put pen to paper.
I love that. The accountability, right? It is the pressure. I think that that's even true once you start writing a book. When people are like, oh, should I stop writing? It's like, well, did you tell people you're going to finish it? You know?
Yeah, and putting a timeline in, Pithy really helped me there, like I had deadlines and, I treated it like a job and I met my deadlines and man, it was a great experience. I'm so proud of it now. That physical book, like I wish I could show you the video of like me seeing, like grasping my book in my hands for the first time. It's pretty magical, just that was a this accomplishment I'll always remember.
I love that. And I'm so honored to be part of your journey.
Yeah.
So why don't we start sort of like at the beginning of the story and tell us kind of, I know in the bio we said, oh, there was a construction accident, but what sort of happened that was like the beginning of all this?
Okay. I was a newlywed with my wife. We were married a year at the time, and we joined a program to where you work on your own house and you build sweat equity. So we're out there framing up walls, building stairs, sheetrocking, all this stuff we were doing on Saturdays, weeknights, just trying to hustle to get ahead. And one Sunday afternoon, I was working actually two doors down on a friend's house, and I was framing up a wall. And when you do that, you build the wall on the ground and then you stand the wall up. And I was nailing the studs in and got to the last stud and I shot the nail gun into the wood and I didn't catch, but there was a knot in the wood and that nail gun shot through that knot and ended up landing like right there in the web of my thumb. And I had like seen blood my whole life. I grew up on a dairy farm. That wasn't that wasn't scary to me concept, but I had a friend that was with me. He pulled it out, and as I was looking at that, I got a little bit queasy, a little bit lightheaded, and so my reaction was to go and take a drink. And I had my water cup on the other side of the house. And so as I was walking across the house, I had passed out and I fell, tipped over and fell into a hole in the floor. And we had cut a hole in the floor earlier that day to build stairs in the hole. And we hadn't built the stairs yet. So it was just an uncovered hole. And I tipped over and fell and landed on my head. Yeah, yeah, I know.
Then,
Yeah, it's wild. Just like if I'd have happened a second sooner or a second later, I'd be a whole different person. It's like one of those single events that just change your life. And as I fell, I landed directly on the top of my skull on the concrete floor. And I remember it was uh like let's see, early spring to late winter, and there was water in the basement. We had shoveled the snow out, but it didn't really melt. It melted the day and then refroze. I was just laying in like a puddle of ice and just kind of like wondering like what just happened. And my friend straightened me out as best he could and kind of uh, I would say talk some calm words to me and just said everything's going to be all right and called 911 and the ambulance came and like in a big rush. uh a lot of things happened over the next, I guess you could say, like a couple months. But I remember in the ambulance just talking to the EMTs, just saying, I can't feel my legs. I can't, and I was paralyzed. What happened is I broke my neck right here up here in this vertebrae, C6, C7. And that's a pretty high up injury. It's leaves you quadriplegic is the term, meaning you have him.
back of your
Yeah.
neck.
Yeah. Yep. And so what happened is my two vertebrae, the C6 and C7, just shifted like that and pinched my spinal cord and uh left me a quadriplegic, uh paralyzed in both hands. Now I can move my arms, paralyzed in both hands and then from the chest down. Uh but I mean I didn't know that, I didn't know all the details at the time. I remember a really kind of dark moment in the hospital. It was really frustrating because I had to be put on a tracheotomy to breathe. It's where they put a tube and you breathe and bypass your mouth. And so I couldn't speak and I was breathing off of a machine. And my wife she wanted to check my voicemail for me because, back home, everybody had heard my story and messaging and so all I needed to do was to tell her my pin for the phone for the voicemail. And I couldn't even do that. I couldn't hold up numbers, and I couldn't like, tell her those numbers. And I just, I just was scared and sad of what the future would hold.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Like, oh, so that was in the days after that it happened, or like, and then from there, it was kind of just like a journey to figure out what is your health status and what does it look like moving forward?
Yeah, exactly. I remember uh, shortly after moving from the ICU to a rehab unit, and they would, there was physical therapists there that were just amazing. They would, t help teach me things, how to kind of get by, with what I have. And they were also, I want to remember that, I want to say this, they were also very positive. I told them, I'm going to get up and walk again. And that was fine. Like they weren't there to like humble me and put me back in my place. They just would say, well, we're gonna pretend worst case scenario and plan for that, but by all means miracles can happen. And and we would uh you know different tasks to get by as a quadriplegic, and sometimes they were frustrating. And I remember one is the physical therapist gave me some M&Ms, and he dumped them out on the table, and he's like, okay, go for it, and I'm trying to like maneuver these little teeny M&Ms into my big fingers and pick them up to eat them. And it was just frustrating, but it was like a task, like it's like there was a goal in mind, and like whatever my situation, let's figure that out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you went from building a home with your own hands to the M&M situation that must have been very hard to mentally process.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, before my accident, I solved all my problems with just more strength. I would just grit through things. I would face my dilemmas with just strength. And now, after all that had been taken away, I kind of got this dark cloud over me. Just like I don't know any way else to just explain it, but this dark cloud of just, oh, what is this? What is my future going to hold?
Yeah.
And part of my story and part of what I share is happened right here in rehab. That's so pivotal to me is a nurse came into my hospital room late at night, and this was after all the visitors were gone. It was just me and her, and she brought into my room a calendar and a red marker, like a little Sharpie marker. And she recognized that cloud that I talked about and realized that I was struggling. And she said, Rick, anytime you do something today that you couldn't do yesterday, we're going to write it down in this calendar, and we're going to call it a red letter day. And we're going to celebrate like the simplest, smallest things that most people just take for granted. And that changed. So like when I talked about those tasks of like picking up an M&M, that was a red letter day at one point, being able to like feed myself. Uh, we did one activity, and I think part of it was to kind of take my mind off of the reality of the situation. But we would just celebrate. We'd have fun. We did a 1K actually, like at the hospital, which ultimately consisted of like one lap around the block. But we got shirts made and everything, and it was just something kind of like to take my mind off of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so then I would say to like fast forward, uh, I exited the hospital, and kind of what you see is what you get. I was thrust into life as a quadriplegic. I couldn't do my old job, so I was on disability. Uh, people, although they, loved me and cared about me, but people stopped coming around, to check on me, and life happens. And I just remember that cloud, that familiar dark cloud just coming back over me. And Amelia, you asked for this, but like this is the vulnerable part of my story is I remember just not wanting to continue this situation, that had everything taken away from me. And I just wanted it back. And so I, for lack of a better term, I came up with a plan to end my life. And I, my only thought was that I would do is I would push myself down the block and up this hill and into a canal that the water ran by our house. And I did see a problem with that because I was in a manual chair and couldn't wheel that far. And so I started thinking to myself, I'm going to go to the end of the block today. And then tomorrow I'll go a little bit farther. And then I'll get to the bottom of the hill. And then the next day I'll try to push a little bit up that hill. And it took I'd say a good week of just planning. And eventually I made it to the top of the hill. And I had that decision. And as you guys can see, I'm still here today, but something rang like out loud to me when I was at the top of the hill. I thought of that nurse's words, and she said, "Do something today that you couldn't do yesterday." And I realized that I had accomplished something that a week ago there's no way I could have done this. And I I thought for a minute, just sat sitting there at the top of this little hill and just like thought, what if I just kind of forget what I've lost and start from now and just use that little advice that nurse gave me. And I don't even remember the nurse's name. That's crazy to me, but I based so much of my life off of those words post injury. Do something today that you couldn't do yesterday.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I try to, I mean, that's what led me to my book. I'm like, do something today. Before my accident, if you told me you're going to write a book, I'd be like, oh, that's wild. I can barely read a book, let alone write a book. And so I just, I just started with an outline. I, and that's kind of been my goal, post injury, is to accomplish something. And again, I don't mean to make light of this, but accomplish something that will make your mama proud.
It's crazy because sorry, I'm like sobbing if you're listening to that. I'm like trying to just like I'm like, oh, I don't have any Kleenex in here. Yes. The story's so crazy to me because it seems so like simple to just say like just have a positive outlook. Things will get better. And just to like actually shift your mindset like that is really hard work.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say this, I still have challenges. I still have uh, you know, problems in my everyday life that I've got to take care of,
Mm.
and that's part of the plan. That's part of why we're here. Uh that reminds me of one of my favorite podcasters is Theo Vaughn, and he's a funny podcaster, but I'm going to quote him one thing he said that really kind of rang true to me. I really stuck with me, but he talked about the video game Mario. And, you and I are that generation. You're probably a little bit younger than me, but like I remember, I remember as a kid, like Mario would drop in, doot, 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 and he'd go down and like hit the mushroom. We can all like from my generation, like everyone played that game. But Theo Vaughn said, if that game were like just a dirt path and you just went straight through, no challenges, you'd probably like put that remote down, put the paddle down like after one try, like that's why Mario was like so addictive, was because it was a challenge. And like anytime you got beat by a mushroom or, whatever, you couldn't wait to like get back to that point and then go a little bit further. That was why it was just so addicting. And yeah, I mean, parents hated that game. So,
Yeah. So huge accomplishment being able to get farther and farther in your wheelchair. And that's another big part of the story too, because you were talking about how in the beginning you could hardly get down the block, and that's something that's changed for you a ton. So tell everybody what you do now.
oh, yeah, I've made it down the block and further more, and so I mean, not like now is this me bragging? I don't know. But
Yeah.
like
I otherwise I want to brag about you, but I don't think I know all the exact details, but I want to hear you say it.
so like I ride a hand cycle and the very like and again it started with around the block, and I have this app called Strava that just tracks like every detail of your ride and is so addicting in that way because you see the honest like you see the effort you put in last week and you want to like beat it this week, like back to the Mario like analogy, like if you ever played Mario Kart, you can see like that ghost like up ahead of you and you're like, God, I wish I could just do a little bit better, and so I ride hand cycle a lot. Uh, and one cool thing that I've learned and which I'm so happy I found was wheelchair rugby. And uh, I know like people are like wheelchair rugby, what's that? But basically like you play in these armored wheelchairs and the chairs are just made to like ram the hell out of each other. You play on a gym court and a lot of strategy to the game. It's 4-on-4. You have to have impairment in all four limbs. But what's really cool about that is, you kind of bragged, you like my story, but like this wheelchair rugby I remember going to nationals last year and
No
the
big deal.
nationals,
No big
yeah.
deal. Just nationals.
Yeah, we were just sixth in the nation. So yeah. But it was really cool because I walked in this gym and I saw, you know, there's 18 teams at nationals, the very best of 18 teams from the US, and they're just jam-packed full of stories of people who have been to the very bottom of their luck, but didn't let it stop them, and they've gone all the way. And this was probably, like it was mine, one of the highlights of their life, playing in this big stage, and playing in front of people from all over the US. So that's one brag thing about. But to be honest, like I'm a family man. I lucked out. I married my sweet wife Tara a year before my accident, and fate would have it that she is a nurse and, or she wanted to go into nursing. She takes great care of me. She's, we have two beautiful young boys that I'm proud of. Don't tell them I said they're beautiful. They would probably more prefer like strong but like, and, and life goes on, I mean, I'm always like looking for the next thing that will stand out or make me stand out that will make my mama proud, or make Amelia proud.
I'm so proud. For real. Like, I knew when we were working on the book that this would be like just something that mattered to people. And I loved the fact that you speak to young people, like younger audiences. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm my everyday job. I have a government job, and we're shut down right now, so I'm struggling with that. But it gave me the opportunity to go out and hustle to get more speaking jobs. So I love to speak to like my dream audience is like youth, and like you know, I would say my favorite speech I ever gave was at my son's elementary. And this was like 3 or 4 years back. And, they asked me to speak, and I was nervous because I didn't want, to embarrass my sons or say something wrong. And so I was like having trouble kind of to try to, like, my outline wasn't gelling. And my son Berkeley, well, my son Grayson first said, "Don't screw it up, Dad." And
Kid.
and Berkeley, he was like, "Oh, you'll do fine." And he's like, "Prepare it later. Let's play this board game now." And the board game that we were playing at the time he asked me to play was Guess Who. And if you've ever played that game, it's kind of like Battleship. Like you have a board in front of you with pictures, and then the opposite has one that you can't see, and you're supposed to guess the other opponent, their person. And so you might say, is your person have glasses? And they'll say, yeah. So you tick down all the people that don't have glasses. And I was thinking of this story and I looked up at my son, who's a twin, and realized how different he is from his twin brother. And he has these special traits that make him who he is. And that's what I just like that light bulb popped. Like, this is what I'm going to say to these kids the next day. I'll forward this on to you as well as anyone listening. Like, you have these special traits that make you who you are, Amelia. I mean, you have the ability to organize, you have the ability to like stand out in a crowd, and those traits, whether you call it God-given or whatever, those are what make you, you know for lack of a better term, special. You are amazing. And that's what I told those kids. And you could see just like each one of them kind of like self-reflecting, like, oh, maybe I am, like, maybe I do play the trombone good, or whatever the case may be. I had thought that Rick Weary lost everything in my accident. I thought, oh, I'll never have this back, or I never be able to do this. But what I realized is, like, those traits, those are the important things, and they didn't go away whether I'm able-bodied or if come up to you from a wheelchair, whatever the case may be. Like, I still have those. Like, I'm still Rick Weary, the guy from Monroe, Utah, grew up on a dairy farm. I'm still me.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I think it's such an important message, especially for young people. I think that it's just like daily life can be so hard. It's hard to be a kid too, right? And so, like, just making sure kids know that even when they go through things that are hard, they can get through it.
Yeah, I remember one of my last speeches was at North Severe Middle School, and I guess you could call it theme for their Ribbon Week was you can do hard things. And like, oh, I like so honored that they invited me to speak, and like, what a better topic to speak on is like, yeah, like whatever the case may be, you're gonna face challenges in your life, but like, just remember, you can do hard things. And if you can catch kids at the right age where my kids, for just one more second, they think I'm cool. But like, if you can catch them at that age and like let them know, like, you have the ability to do hard things, I think that's why I really feel important about sharing my message. is
Mm-hmm.
because they can do hard things. And we all can.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you came out of this with almost like a new purpose, I would say. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but it's like you sort of stepped into this role where you're like able to help so many more people than before.
Yeah, I think the task has changed. Before I like I said, I solved problems with grit. I served people with grit, and now like I feel like, you know, I I don't know. I would say I'm blessed with I can run my mouth and just like talk through things. And I realized that I had to kind of enhance that. Like you learn pretty quick how to talk to a stranger when you're like say in Vegas and you're out of gas, but you have the money to pump your gas. As a story, but you have to ask someone, "Will you pump my gas for me?" And they're like, "This stranger," and you got to explain to them. But like you quickly realize, the you have to kind of jump outside your comfort zone to
Mm-hmm.
to be able to grow. Uh, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I don't know what your storytelling skills were like before this, but they're very good. Do you feel like that has gotten better through practice or like self-reflection?
I do. I really do feel like that it has gotten better almost by force. I quickly got asked, within like, say, my church or the community, hey, will you share your story and speak, and people would tell me, oh, your story's so inspiring. And that was kind of it also created that drive to like write my book or tell the next story or do the next thing. So I would say yes that I have improved in storytelling, but I wanna keep improving, like I feel like if you're not improving, then you're going backwards, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Growth mindset with everything. Yeah. Oh, I like you are so inspirational. I'm so glad things have been going well with the book and with speaking and like that's that you're able to reach a bunch of people and I think that's great. And so for anybody listening here who wants to book you as a speaker, where can they find more information?
So I have the quickest way to get in touch with me would just be Instagram. My handle is Rick from Roe, RickFromRoe. Yeah. And then I have a website. It's called redletterdays.net. And you can buy my book. If you like it read to you, you can it's on uh Audible, and you can purchase my book on Amazon. Speaking wise, like you put an audience in front of me, and I'll share whatever. Even if you want me to do stand up comedy, I can't stand up, but I'll try to make people laugh.
Amazing. I know you've gotten great feedback from the audiences as well. And the name of the book is Red Letter Days
Yeah.
by Rick Werry. Rick, thank you again so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's really good to see you. And yeah, I remember you and I had a lot of meetings with your dog in the background, and
Yeah.
yeah, talking about my book. And oh yeah, it's like I said, it's really good to see you and kind of reminisce of those days. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Right after the book journey, it is always like I talk to somebody so much and then I like send them on their way with the book and then a couple years later I'm like I miss them.
Yeah, yeah.
So yes, very good to catch up. So thank you everyone for listening and please check out Rick Werry online.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Sticky Stories That Stick. We'll see you again next time. Be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.